Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back once again to our ongoing series on the glories of our most beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastrata Deshatarine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we're continuing with our mini-series on Stimulation for Ecstatic Love, and this will be part 63. In this lecture, I'd like to continue with the theme of last week's talk, which concerned, as you remember, painting or paintings in Braja Leela. In that lecture, we discussed how painting is one of the 64 arts employed by the residents of Vrindavan in their service to Krishna. And as you may remember, painting is listed as number 5 in those 64 arts. It's called alekya, and the definition of alekya, the art of drawing, calligraphy, and painting pictures. It includes all forms from simple village arts up to the highest perfectional stage of masterful painting. It's the definition given. But these 64 arts are not just limited to the residents of Vrindavan in Krishna's pastimes 5,000 years ago. Any Krishna Bhakta may become proficient in any one or more of these arts at any time in history. For example, last year, while visiting the Bodhi Surma Kunja ashram in Vrindavan, where we actually had darshan of the original Anchilila section of Chaitanya Charitamrita by the very hand of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. At that time, the elderly Mahant, the head of the ashram, very nice Gaudiya Vaishnava, he also showed us a small, very beautiful painting of Radha and Krishna that was also done by the hand of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. It was very beautiful. Actually, as a result of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya and his associates, there was historically a surge in devotional paintings in Vrindavan, Bengal, Orissa, even parts of South India, especially through the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. Much of it was sponsored, of course, by devotee kings, including the Rajput kings of Rajasthan, the Kalinga and other dynasties of Orissa, I was reading, as well as kings and Seths. Seths means, I translate that, prince-like men of Bengal. And I was reading that the brushes for painting were made of soft hair from the tails of animals, and the colors were made from flowers and different processed natural minerals. But the most significant thing were the canvases, which were often just made of paper, and that was actually a rare commodity, even at the time of the 6 Goswamis. I was reading that during the period of the Goswamis 500 years ago, most of the paper used by artists to paint came from General Man Singh's paper factory in Sialkot, which is now present-day Pakistan. And the paper was treated through many different processes, like cutting, flattening, laminating, drying, while adding white-based pigments, and then again drying. Then thereafter, black and gold borders were added as a frame, and then again dried in the sun, until finally this paper, or you could say this canvas, was ready for painting. It was a bit of a complicated process, a very natural process. And I discovered that these types of paintings can even be seen today. For example, in Vanakandi Mahadev temple in Vrindavan, this is a place where Srila Sanatana Goswami would sometimes reside. You can see these type of paintings. Also in Bodhi Surma Kunja, which we just mentioned earlier, there's some of these types of paintings. And a big collection of these, I could say, ancient paintings can also be seen in the museum of the Vrindavan Research Institute. I've seen them there. Now, the kings of Rajasthan, in particular, had a great interest in many art forms, amongst which painting was, you could say, foremost importance. The kings often decorated their palaces, their ceilings and walls with beautiful paintings of Krishna's, Radha and Krishna's various pastimes. Amongst them was the very famous king, Maharaj Sri Shavant Singh. I've become kind of a history buff for the history of Rajasthan and Jaipur in particular. So Maharaj Sri Shavant Singh, he was born, let me remember, in 1699. And he was also known because he was Rajrishi. Rajrishi means a saintly person sitting on the throne. And in Vrindavan, because he was a saintly person, he was known as Nagari Das. They didn't call him the king. He used to visit Vrindavan, like sometimes the Rajput kings would do. And he was known as Nagari Das. And he's a king in Rajasthan, Krishna Bhakta, and I was amazed to read that he wrote more than 1,000 poems in the Braj Bas language about the loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And I discovered that he established a unique school of painting in Vrindavan known as Kishan Gar Charana. The specialty of this school was that in the paintings of Radha and Krishna, their eyes were stretched to their ears, and their noses were very pointed. It's a characteristic of that type of painting. Then, of course, there are paintings known as Pichwai. Pichwai. We used to distribute Pichwai paintings in the early days in the movement in Europe, I remember. We'd get them from Rajasthan. Pichwai, which literally means backdrop. This art form was invented to paint backdrops in the palaces. But later it developed into an art form in and of itself. And the main motifs used in Pichwai are lotuses, lotus leaves, cows with calves, the Yamuna River, Srinathji, and Govardhan Hill. I think most of you have seen Pichwai paintings. Now there's a number of other schools of devotional paintings, as I mentioned before, which all simply serve to show how down through the ages Krishna conscious paintings have served as a stimulus for awakening devotees' love for the Lord. You look at the Lord's pastimes in painting, you become enlivened. Now, of course, our very own Srila Prabhupada knew the value of transcendental paintings in modern times to attract people to Krishna consciousness. In the very beginning of our movement, he approved pictures from Brijbasi and Sons. I think the older devotees will know what I'm talking about. Brijbasi and Sons. It's a popular printing house that specializes in large prints of famous paintings of Krishna and Krishna and various avatars of Krishna. So Prabhupada approved. In the beginning, we didn't have any devotee painters, like really early in the movement, or they were just learning to paint. So Prabhupada would authorize that we could use the prints from Brijbasi and Sons as decorations in our temples, ISKCON temples. But of course later on, when disciples who were artists joined and became proficient in painting, Prabhupada actually personally instructed them. This is how interested he was in paintings. He personally instructed them how to paint Krishna and his pastimes to be used in his books as well as his temples. Our books are full of the BBT paintings, and Prabhupada was very proud of those artists. I was remembering how in the very beginning of our movement in New York, Srila Prabhupada once asked one of the first and foremost painters, Jadharani Dasi, to paint the super soul within the heart. He gave her that instruction. Go paint the super soul within the heart. But when she went to a room and sat down before the canvas, her mind went blank. And she went back to Srila Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, I don't know what the super soul looks like. Now, this is very early in the movement. What does the super soul look like? So Srila Prabhupada said very seriously, to know and realize that, you'll have to meditate like a yogi for thousands of years. To see the super soul in the heart. So when Jadharani looked a little disappointed, Srila Prabhupada smiled. And he said, but by the mercy of the spiritual master, you can know such things immediately. And Srila Prabhupada began to explain how the Lord in the heart looks as he stands on a lotus flower holding a wheel, club, lotus, and conch shell. And again, Srila Prabhupada was very appreciative of the service of his disciples who painted. One time, my god sister, Govinda Dasi, shared with Jadharani that when she was in New York, Srila Prabhupada had commented that in a recent painting Jadharani had done of Radha and Krishna, Prabhupada said it looked like Radharani had another boyfriend. Radharani had another boyfriend. This was because at the time Jadharani was painting, she was using references from old painting masters. And she had copied a girl in a Dutch painting to look like Radharani. And in the original painting, the girl was facing away from her suitor, and Jadharani copied her just like that, while showing the girl holding a garland. So in her painting, Radharani was holding a garland, but was facing away from Krishna, who was playing his flute. That's the explanation. So sometime later, when Jadharani had the opportunity to meet Srila Prabhupada, she said, Srila Prabhupada, I heard that you didn't like that painting because it looked like Radharani had another boyfriend. She was turning away from Krishna. I'll do it over. But Srila Prabhupada kindly said to her, no, Radharani is offering Jadharani a garland for painting so many nice pictures of Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. That's how he took it in the end. So, at the beginning of our movement, it was Srila Prabhupada himself who, perfectly knowing Krishna, instructed his disciples how to paint him. Now, while preparing for these two classes, the one last Friday and this class today, on paintings in Braja Leela, I came across an amazing pastime where Srimati Radharani herself personally inspired a devotee, you could say in modern times, to paint. It begins with, you could say, the Acharya saying that peacocks are sometimes said to be Radha and Krishna's dance teachers. So at one time, at a sacred place in Vrindavan, now called More Kutir, it's at Varshana, Radha and Krishna, instead of dancing like peacocks, decided to actually become peacocks and dance together near Varshana. So Krishna became a peacock and Radha became a peahen. And when they started dancing, it's described all the forest animals became so enchanted with the divine couple that they had taken such forms and were dancing like that they all came to see and watch this transcendental Leela. And actually, it's a famous Leela, and it's such an important Leela, that even 100 or 200 years ago, Radharani appeared to a blind Vaishnava who was residing in Vrindavan in a cottage at More Kutir, and requested him to paint a picture of her dancing with Krishna and the peacocks at that area. This is, you could say, recently compared to 500 years ago. But the blind Vaishnava, he said, he's astounded, Shri Radha, how can I paint? I'm blind. But Radharani knew that he had very deep spiritual vision. He was a pure devotee, obviously. So she famously said to that painter, Baba, have faith in my words. To inspire all practicing devotees now and in the future, the same potency that guides your meditation will also guide your hand. And so by the mercy of Sri Radha, not only did that blind devotee paint a very beautiful painting of Radha and Krishna dancing as peacocks, but also, by her mercy, his eyesight was restored, and he could see what he had painted. And that painting is still there. Next time you go on Parikrama to Vrindavan, you go to Varshana, and you're coming up the backside there, go to Morkutir, you can see that painting to this very day. Modern day miracle. So, I would like to share another beautiful painting pastime. We recently discovered this pastime while researching the lives of our previous acharyas in the Vrindavan Research Institute in Braj. We found it in a book called Sneha Leela by the famous Brajbasi poet named Rasika Rai. It's got a good name, Rasika Rai does. Of course, Sneha Leela means, or it refers to, pastimes of affection. So, as Prabhupada would sometimes say, once upon a time, Krishna asked Mother Yasoda, Maya, please tell me, who do you love the most? Krishna asked his mother, who do you love the most? And Mother Yasoda replied, of course you, my beloved son. Then Krishna asked, and Maya, how much do you love me? Yasoda replied, there is no limit, my beloved son. Then Krishna said, Maya, may I ask you something? And she said, yes, of course, my beloved. So Krishna said, my dear mother, my friend Sridham cries when he goes home without me. He feels so much separation from me when he cannot see me for the duration of an entire night. I would like to give him a picture or a painting of myself, which I think will comfort him and appease his feelings of separation from me. So Mother Yasoda said, all right, my son, let me find someone to paint your picture. So a short while later, Mother Yasoda met Sudevi Saki, one of the Astasakis, and asked her if she knew any artists who could make a painting of Krishna. So Sudevi Saki said, yes, Mother Yasoda, I know a gopi named Chitrasaki, who once received a boon from the goddess Saraswati, the goddess of art and learning, that she can make a painting of anyone in creation just within a few minutes. So Sudevi went to see Chitrasaki, who agreed to go to Nandagram to meet with Mother Yasoda. So when she arrived at the palace of Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yasoda greeted her and introduced her to her beloved son, Krishna. Now when Mother Yasoda asked Krishna to stand up very straight so that Chitrasaki could see how she might make a painting of him, Krishna said, but Maya, you know how I prefer to stand in a threefold bending form? You know how I prefer to stand in a threefold bending form. So he assumed that stance with a beautiful flute on his lips and a peacock feather on his head. And as Chitrasaki gazed upon Krishna, studying how to paint him, she became very attracted to him. So for a long time, she just stood there staring at him with wide open eyes and a mouth in amazement without even blinking. Then she turned to Mother Yasoda and said, I will try my best to do this painting. So that evening, Chitrasaki sat at home and began her painting of threefold bending Krishna. And while remembering his beautiful form, his unique features, and it's described his enchanting smile, her painting manifested most wonderfully. In fact, hosts of demigods and demigoddesses hovered above her painting canvas, transfixed as the Lord of all creation seemed to manifest on the canvas. But at one point, here the plot thickens, at one point, Chitrasaki called out in frustration, I am at a loss to understand the true color of Krishna's body and complexion. So she put her paintbrush down, and in desperation, she prayed to Goddess Saraswati, the deity of art and learning, for help. Then amazingly, Saraswati appeared and asked Chitrasaki, what is the matter, my dear daughter? What is the matter? So Chitra said, my dear Saraswati, you gave me the boon that I can paint anyone's picture within a few minutes. But I have failed in painting Krishna's portrait, even after 1,000 attempts, for I am unable to understand the exact color of his complexion. So Saraswati smiled and she said, Chitra, even I, the goddess of art and learning, have difficulty in duplicating the color of Krishna's body. His complexion is simply mystical. Even if one mixes each and every color in the creation in an infinite variety of ways, one cannot duplicate the exact color of Krishna's transcendental form. I think to understand the true color of Krishna, you have to go to Srimati Radharani, the queen of all wisdom and art. She will bless you. Only then can you finish your work for Mother Yashoda and Krishna. So Chittasaki went to see her queen, Srimati Radharani, to explain her dilemma. And as Chittasaki entered the kunja where Radharani was sitting surrounded by other maidservants, Chitra came forward and explained her problem. And at that point, Srimati Radharani smiled and said, my beloved Chittasaki, you have all my blessings. Now please, look into my eyes. So when Chittasaki looked into Sri Radha's eyes, she saw the beautiful form of Krishna, smiling while standing under a mango tree. Chittasaki was again amazed to see this form of Krishna, and while carefully meditating on him in the eyes of Sri Radha, Chittasaki suddenly understood the true color and complexion of Krishna. She was ecstatic, thinking, now I can complete my service to Mother Yashoda. And as Srimati Radharani slowly closed her eyes, Sudevi Saki said, dearest Chittasaki, the secret to your success in realizing the true color of Sri Krishna's beautiful form is simply the mercy of Srimati Radharani. No one can truly understand Krishna without the mercy of Srimati Radharani. This is the lesson to be learned today. This is the lesson to be learned today for all of us as well. Hare Krishna. So then Chittasaki went back to her home in Chiksholi, where she lives at the base of Varshana, and completed her painting with the colors of Krishna's body as revealed through the eyes of Srimati Radharani. And after making some finishing touches on the painting, Chitta went to Nandagram and presented the painting to Mother Yashoda, who upon seeing it started crying in great ecstasy. Then Mother Yashoda called Lala, her Lala, Krishna, and said, my darling son, please come quickly to see what Chittasaki has brought for you. And Krishna came and sat on Mother Yashoda's lap, and seeing the painting, for the first time, seeing the painting, Krishna said, Maya, why are you showing me a mirror? Maya, why are you showing me a mirror? So Mother Yashoda said, Lala, it's not a mirror. This is a painting of you. It's so perfectly done that we can see the true color of your beautiful form so dear to all of us. It's so perfectly done that we can see the true color of your beautiful form so dear to all of us. You can now give this painting to your friend Sridham so he will never feel separation from you again. Then Yashoda turned to Chittasaki and said, Dearest Chittasaki, how can I pay you for this beautiful painting? So Chitta replied, with just your blessings, Mother Yashoda. So appropriate. With just your blessings, Mother Yashoda. So Yashoda said, yes, of course, but ask for anything, whatever is your desire. So Chittasaki smiled and said with a little touch of humor, well, you can give me your son. Well, you can give me your son. But Yashoda was shocked by hearing these words, and she said, very famously, she said, I can give up everything for Krishna, but I cannot give Krishna away for anything. I can give up everything for Krishna, but I cannot give Krishna away for anything. And even Krishna was a little shaken, and he said, and I cannot live without my mother. We are inseparable, like water and wetness, or the sun and its warmth. Then turning to Chittasaki, Krishna said, but I promise you, my dear Chittasaki, that from now on, every day as I pass through your village, I will visit your home and give you my darshan. And Chittasaki, of course, was most pleased with this promise of Krishna. Hare Krishna. What's the nectarine pastime? So I will conclude today with a personal memory shared with you. And that is that when I first came to the Detroit temple, 1970, I think, there was a devotee giving me a tour of the premises. And as we entered the temple room, he showed me different paintings of the different Das avatars decorating the temple. And when I saw a painting of Lord Buddha, I was immediately attracted. And I thought, that's what I'm looking for. I want peace. Life's so stressful. I want to be peaceful like that. But that devotee, he replied, I think actually what you're looking for is over here. And he motioned to the wall on the opposite side, pointing to a painting of Panchatattva, dancing ecstatically in kirtan. He said, this is actually what you're looking for. And surely it turned out to be. That was what I was looking for, and that is what I'm looking for, and that's what I hope one day I can join the eternal pastimes of the Panchatattva, dancing in ecstasy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And several years later, when Srila Prabhupada came to visit our fledgling temple in Paris, France, we had a large copy of that same painting in the middle of the altar in the temple. We hadn't installed deities at that time. We just had this beautiful painting, a copy of this beautiful painting of Panchatattva, the same painting. And I remember so clearly when Prabhupada arrived at the temple and came into the temple room, he saw that painting and he paid full dandavats to that painting. Full dandavats, reminding us all that the painting was in fact a deity. And that being said, I will finish this lecture today with a quote that I opened last Friday's lecture with. Srimad Bhagavatam 11:27-12 says, you may remember, one of the 8 types of deities is a deity painted out of color. Shaili dharu mayi lohi, lepya lekya cha shaikati, manu mayi mani mayi, pati mashta vidashmita. The deity form of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties: stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, the mind, or jewels. Jai Sri Radhe, Hare Krishna. Thank you. That concludes our research, study, and lecture on paintings as a stimulus for ecstatic love. Thank you so much, Prabhus. We'll be back next Friday with more nectar. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, the revealer of the Dham. Shishi Gaurnitai ki, Shishi Krishna Balaram ki, Shishi Radhashama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dhama ki, Gaurnitai ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaur Pimanandi, Jai Jai Sisi Radhe Sharm.